Please. Back.
Hey man, that's the typical Falcons at home when we play and we can't play well. And we heard Arthur Smith say today he wants to get better playing at home. Are they playing so well on the road? But
Yeah, please.
I wanted to jump into what someone mentioned in the chat about Matt Ryan's passing yards. Number one, you take away that first game that Matt Ryan struggled in against Philadelphia Eagles, and that second game where he started coming to life in them 3 picks. Matt Ryan is up in there in the top 10 easily.
Right.
The reason why Matt Ryan is number 25 right now, because even though we was talking about the run game, the trend is passing. That is an indication of the other teams throwing a lot right now too. But when the trend changes and run game does start become prevalent with other teams, the Falcons will need to eventually be able to do that when the time calls for it, when that trend hits. But right now, I think you're getting the best of both worlds with Matt Ryan being able to throw the ball like he wants to and them being able to run. They've run a lot of plays in these last 4 or 5 games where they've been averaging, right now they're averaging 67.6 plays a game. And they've been running about 70 plus plays in the last 4 out of the 5 games. So that tells you Arthur Smith gets the best of his world, Matt Ryan gets the best of their world, and you run them plays, keep your defense off the field too, to be able to keep them from getting exposed where they fresh more so than not when they do get on the field and hopefully be able to defend the points.
Right. Yeah, that's definitely something that coming out of this bye, I hope that's that the coaching staff is taking a look at their run plays, and at the 3 backs that have gotten the touches, Mike Davis, Patterson, obviously. I like how the last couple of games, whether it was by virtue of not having your wide receivers, as you were kind of alluding to, Mike, but they've had to really get even more creative with the way they've been using Patterson, and I hope that continues. I hope that it continues to constantly make it a chess piece, like use Patterson in all types of ways, whether it's out wide, slot, in the backfield, wherever, like, run out there with a 22 personnel and, where it's him and Davis, I want them to continue to be creative there. And, but also would like very much for, the run game to be able to be leaned on a little bit more. For some of y'all that are just getting back in here with us, my power went out. For whatever reason, it blipped for a split second and caused everything to go haywire. So we're going to hopefully get back into this and just let it roll today, see what happens. But, yeah, to y'all's point, I want to see the defense continue to find an identity. Right now, what we thought was going to be a strength of this team, the linebacker core, hasn't necessarily shown up to be that yet. I am wondering with like the potential injury to Dante Fowler, are we going to get to see more run of JTM and Ogundeji? Like, do we get to see more run there? Apparently, some defensive lineman has been working with Chuck Smith, according to, but he said he wasn't going to put no names out there unless they started getting sacks. I was like, what kind of crap is that? So you're only going to say I work with this guy if he starts playing good? If he don't play good, you don't want to have your name attached to it? That's kind of cheesy to me a little bit. But but anyway, so like, maybe we can start to like really get some heat on the, on the quarterback. So, and not just in sacks wise, but, we need turnovers too. We finally got our first one against the turnover happy Zach Wilson. I need that to continue. Like I need, because that's what really puts stress on opposing offenses as much as anything else. You start stealing possessions, and that really puts emphasis and pressure on them to have to produce. So
Right.
Yeah.
That's something I hope to look for when coming out of this bye. All right, well, let's jump into the truncated chat. Please get y'all's questions in there for sure. Fred Butts has joined us. He says Falcons are going to go on a major win streak. That's what we hope. That's I mean, no lie. That's what we hope. Stu the Pepperhead is in here. Stu, we ain't seen you in forever.
It's been a while.
Man, I'm glad you're back. I was thinking about you last show. I was like, man, I ain't seen Stu in quite a minute. I hope he's okay. Blizz818 says was mad at his Wi-Fi for a second. It ain't your Wi-Fi. It was on my end. It was
it's us, man.
It's us. You ain't got to get mad at your folks. I'm like gonna get mad at Greystone out here. Like, what's the deal? Let's see. Jay Strong says, "What it do, P for P, man? What's going on? We're just trying to get this show going tonight. Bradley Burnett gave us one of these. What's going on, Bradley? Glad you're in here tonight. Tony Wright says Avery Williams and Eric Harris will be out as they continue to nurse their injuries. I don't know if they've announced that they'll be out yet. I know Avery Williams was actually back at practice today. So he's trending in the right direction. I don't know if he'll play, but I don't think they've announced that they're out yet. I myself, I know it's going to sound weird. I wouldn't necessarily mind Harris being out because whether it's by hook or by crook, so to speak, I need more burn on like Richie Grant and Jalen Hawkins and some of these younger guys, because it's becoming more and more apparent that the 1-year deal talent that we have brought in was brought in on 1-year deals for a reason. Like, you were hoping you were going to recapture some Patriot days of Deron Harmon. I didn't have a ton of expectation per se for Eric Harris, but neither one of them have really shined all that much.
Right.
So right now I feel like, Hawkins and Grant are your future.
Yeah.
So you need to see if your future is worth it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so maybe, there's been alluded to before the bye that, they were keeping some of these rookies out for, the long season kind of deal, wanting them to be more for the back end of the season.
Yeah.
So, maybe we'll start to see some play, from some of these rookies.
Well, I think one thing too though is not while he's not necessarily a rookie, I think that having Kendall Sheffield back, that's something I want to see what that does for the secondary. Now, for as I would say enigmatic as Kendall Sheffield has been, I mean, he's a little bit like Isaiah Oliver. They go on stretches where they play really good football. So I think you don't really know what you're going to get from a Kendall Sheffield coming off an injury, but I would be interested to see if he can add some value to the secondary because we need it. We're down in Oliver. Let me ask you this: is Moreau hurt? Is Moreau's good to go, right?
He was back in practice.
Yeah, as far as I know, Moreau is back. But even with that, like at this point, throw Darren Hall out there, and I am all for, like, it's become painfully obvious to me that the talent level isn't where it needs to be.
Absolutely.
And the coaching needs to step it up, right? Because that was something that we were counting on. So if that's the case, then I'd rather just go ahead and get these young guys, baptized by fire, so to speak, and really see if they're able to handle the pressure or not.
Right.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no, now I'll say this much. I mean, the one thing we know for sure that Arthur Smith and his staff are happy about is the player Matt Ryan.
Right.
Because it looked kind of shaky. We know Matt Ryan's history usually when he gets with a coordinator for the first time, the first year, they do struggle,
Mm-hmm.
but they've been able to get Matt Ryan on track. And I'm with you, JR. After that fourth quarter in that Giants game, something clicked for Matt.
Something
And
did.
and yeah, and it clicked to the tune of 8 touchdowns and no interceptions. I don't know about the youth movement yet, because now you're 2-3. Now you have sparked up again hope that you could go on a run and
Right.
be able to maybe make a playoff push. And I'm gonna say this, that you think about Arthur Smith them in 2019 when he took over calling the offense after Matt LaFleur left.
Mm-hmm.
They struggled in the beginning. Their first 5 games, guess what? They were 2-3 too.
Right.
And he may be trying to pull off of that, because he's mentioned some stuff about different scenarios and wins and loss scenarios and stuff that he's been through throughout his career. And they may be trying to pull through that. But the good thing is they're not going through a QB situation now where they had Marcus Mariota and Tannehill in the first 5 games. They made a decision, and Tannehill helped to kind of, smooth things out where they were able to make that run, at 9-7 and got into the playoffs and went all the way to the AFC Championship and was actually blowing Kansas City out. I mean, I think 24-0 before Kansas City came all the way back.
Right.
To ultimately win that game.
I mean, yeah, you bring up a good point too, because if you think about it, right, the bye came at a really good time for the Falcons because, I think there are a couple of things that happened that work in our favor. One thing is this. When Arthur Smith got these guys, I would say from training camp on, it's just been a grind ever since then. And I think, we really couldn't figure out what this team was during the preseason. We really could not it just seemed like we couldn't get the offense in gear. There was nothing that gave us any semblances of hope for the offense. Now, you fast forward the past 4 games, we kind of starting to see Kyle Pitts as expected, or Matt Ryan getting the ball to Hayden Hurst like we talked about, right? So I think, the London trip, very long trip, team gets to spend a lot of time with each other. They get to bond different ways. They come back. They've got a break. So this should be a little bit more of a telltale sign. I would say what we do probably the next 2 to 3 weeks is really going to let us know what type of team that we have. Because you're right, we are lacking in talent in certain areas, but we actually, with this team, have just enough athletes to always keep the game interesting. So, that's fun to watch.
Yeah, I think I saw a deal. I wonder if I can get it pulled up here. A deal about Kyle Pitts and where he's stacking up. Like, he's already, like, he was, top 10. If not, I know it was top 10 in receptions or yardage. I'm trying to see if I could pull that that tweet. I don't know. I'm probably not going to be able to find it in time. But yeah, he's had like, let's see here. Is this it? No. Anyway, he's within like the top 10 for sure, with the top 5 tight ends right now, and he's listed in the top 5 tight ends, and is already just his rookie campaign. So I'm really interested to see like how it ends up. You know what I'm saying? Like, when this season is all over, all said and done, where does he end up ranking for the rest of, with the rest of the tight ends? Because he was already, like I said, as far as yardage goes, receptions goes, he was already up there with some of the other like elite tight ends. And so that, for as much as we were clamoring the first, game or 2 or 3 really, about him not being utilized right and all this other stuff. I mean, all this stuff takes time. Like we want immediate results, and in a way we were sold immediate results when the whole, you got the wrong guy for a rebuild and all this stuff. You're being disrespectful to these guys. And I get all of it. Like, I personally didn't buy too much into that, because like, I always look at statements like that as, what else are they supposed to say? We're this at the end of the day, this is a business first and foremost, and we're trying to sell a product,
Right.
and the product is what's on the field, right? So you can't just be all right, guys, you know what? This year, my burgers suck. Okay. don't come eat my burgers this year. Come back next year. Maybe next year my burgers will be halfway tasty. But see, you got to be able to sell them burgers this year to make it to next year. I know that
Right.
analogy falls a little flat. It's not like anybody's fixing to shut the lights off. Y'all don't shut my lights off. Anyway, y'all don't, and ain't nobody finna shut the lights off on the Falcons, because if they were going to do something like that, the Jags would have had their lights turned off years ago. Same thing with the Browns. They wouldn't have made it to where they are now, so to, with their roster. So that analogy is a little flat, but it is the truth. In you're not going to sit here and just tell everybody that, hey man, sorry about your luck. We're gonna suck. I mean, you look at what the rumor mill swirling around Miami Dolphins right now, going to potentially trade for Deshaun Watson. What did they say all offseason when all those, no, Tua's our guy. We got faith in Tua. They're not going to sit here and tell you, no, this guy, no, he ain't it. We got to go in a different direction. That's just not how these things operate.
Yeah.
So, but I am glad to see, Kyle Pitts really starting to, whether it's him, whether it's Ryan, whatever, starting to get that connection built, starting to, build that confidence. That one-handed catch in London, probably did a lot for his, confidence going, okay, sometimes you need a I belong here moment.
Yeah.
Or, I belong here. We tend to call those breakout games, but, everybody's got to have one. And if it came against the Jets to the tune of 119 yards and a touchdown, then awesome. That's what cool,
So, I mean, I'll say this much. I think there was some truth. They really did believe that they could make a playoff push. I mean, you got the 8th weekest schedule in the league. And yeah, the talent is desolate right now, to say the least. But they felt like they had enough talent to be able to make a push and could sneak in possibly as a 6 or 7 seed. And I think now, when they were 1-3, I think that started to kind of go away a little bit. And then they went to London and won this game, and now that hope is coming back, and it's kind of being restored, so to speak. They feel like if they can keep Matt Ryan playing at the level he's playing, in the offensive line trending in the right direction, and maybe get that defense to play a little bit better than what they are. I'm not looking for them to be world beaters on defense, but you have to get those 29 points that you've given up a game down below the points that you're scoring on average at 21 points on offense, because that is not a winning recipe right now.
No.
But I think that you are seeing them do some things that offensively they are trending up in the right direction, like Matt Ryan said. And you're going to see, to me, Patterson still having the success that he's having. One of the things that I noticed is that at least 3 or 4 of those personnel groupings is where they are putting Patterson at, and Patterson has had success scoring touchdowns. And if they keep mixing them personnel groupings up with Patterson coming out there, they're going to force defenses to have to figure out what personnel grouping they're going to put out on defense to play against us. And right now, that's giving Patterson a leg up because of the different personnel groupings that they're hiding Patterson in to allow him to have the success that he's having right now. And I think as long as he stays healthy, that's going to continue, because they put out a lot of personnel groupings that I've probably seen even with Kyle Shanahan being here. We know he loves his personnel groupings.
Yep.
No, yeah, the versatility. Like, I never in a million years would have thought that going into that London game without, I'm not really considering Russell Gage a true number 2, but without, Calvin Ridley and the run game at that point that has been, spotty at best, that I think we were going to put out a performance like we did. Like, the score was not indicative of the performance that we put out.
Right.
Not to me, it wasn't, because had you not had Hurst and Davis not lost those 2 fumbles in the red zone, that's, that score, even one of those, and you're over the 30-point mark again. So I think that the way that we've been able to use Patterson to keep people guessing has been a super surprise and shock to me, obviously, because I really felt like Patterson was going to be your return guy and maybe a gadget play here or there. I never in a million years thought he was going to be like a trusted part of the offense, if not a focal point at times.
Yeah.
Right.
So
yeah. And I'll say this though, I think with the role that he gets to play on the team on this team, as long as he's healthy to this point, I think we have a chance to compete offensively, because I do think Ridley, more confident Kyle Pitts, versatile Cordero Patterson, don't know what we're gonna get out of Gage. Really don't know what you're gonna get out of Zacchaeus. Honestly, to be honest with you, I think Arthur Smith can use the personnel we have to continue to make this offense competitive. Because again, you don't have Tajay Sharp more than 5 or 10 plays, but again, there's a role for him. Like, all of these receivers can actually carve out a role. I think this is a team where we don't necessarily, we don't have the talent to hit you in the face talent, but if everybody plays their role, again, this is a team that can make it interesting. Like, they've shown it, and that's what we want to see.
The one thing that I look for as far as Ridley is concerned is quit trying to make Ridley go across the middle. Like, he's not that guy. Like, get up. He's not that guy. Somebody, I think it was if y'all don't follow him, he's a good follow on Twitter, the Real Pat Man, put up a next gen chart of like Ridley's routes underneath Dirk Cutter. None of them across the middle. None of them. He's not that guy. He's in the space, like in space, boundary, like near the hash line. He uses the sideline as his friend. He's that type of receiver, and that's the way that they need to play him, in my opinion. Because, to this point right now, 4 games in for him playing rather, because he missed last week's. Like, that stuff going across the middle, that just ain't him. Like, you found a slant guy in Sharp, as far as, a bigger bodied wide receiver. Maybe start mixing in a Darby. I don't know, if he can handle that role or not. But, maybe even let Gage get back to being that coming across the middle. He did pretty good there in years past. Like, normally you want your number 2 doing like different types of routes, but we need to get these guys back to doing what they're good at doing. Hopefully now with Pitts coming on, maybe he can be your, over the middle guy. They've gotten some of them quick RPOs to him, across the middle. So maybe that's something that we can keep feeding and keep working on there. Let's see. Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to get into chat. You got a point. Go for it.
Yeah. I will say this. Calvin Ridley may not be your middle guy, but one thing I have noticed that he's Matt Ryan's play action guy.
Mm-hmm.
You go through and you look at them first game, the most play action passes have gone to Calvin Ridley. And so now Matt Ryan has his play action guy back, which is going to force Calvin Ridley to have to catch them play action passes in the middle.
Right.
I mean, so he's going to have to do it sometimes. May not have to do it all the time, but since he's been Matt Ryan's play action guy, counted on, now he's back. That play action is going to go up even more for Matt Ryan and Calvin Ridley together. So Calvin's going to have to bring it at some point. I'm not asking him to just bulldoze guys over, but there's sometimes you have to make a decision, get them tough yards especially when the first down is relying on it.
Right. We could talk about like his play style probably for the rest of the hour, but yes, he needs to quit dancing and get upfield. That he's that type of receiver that you see in college that catches it and does that little, like, tries that loop, type deal. He's one of the first ones I see really, bring it to the NFL for us anyway. Other receivers do it, but yeah, that's something that's definitely being taught in the collegiate level that is starting to bleed over. All right, let's get back into chat with Big Truck Trap Star. Matt Ryan has been balling the last 3 games. I wonder if that hurt him to type that. I wonder if Your hands okay, big truck? Because anyway, Antoine Wartime TV says, "Let's go CR." I'm assuming Calvin Ridley, Jaden Scheffler. What's going on, Jaden? Says, "What's up, y'all? Finally free and have time to join. Well, I'm glad you're here, buddy."
That's what I'm talking about.
Millie Mills says Pitt's got more touchdowns than a guy who won't be named. Yes, he does. There's one touchdown is more than the gentleman up in Tennessee, but when he's not on our team, so we're not going to worry about him.
Anyway.
Right, who? Antonio Holloway says, "Oh my God, I look at the NFC standings, and the Falcons have a great chance of playoffs. It's early. Playoff spot, it's early. I mean, we do. We're not out of it by any stretch of imagination, especially if the play gets better, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yep.
Like what you saw against Philly was like, dude, we're out of it. Like, because that was horrible. And but as you've seen week in week, they've gotten better in certain areas. Now if we can just consistently put it together, right. I think that you do have a chance of either making a playoff or at least ruining somebody else's playoff chances. Tony Wright says, "I'm so glad that Marvin Davison is back practicing. I feel like he's if he's on the field, he can wreak some havoc to Tua on Sunday." Toby, your thoughts on Marlon Davidson's return? Can he step up his play?
Yes, I believe he can, and he started to before he got injured. Marlon Davidson was getting back there,
right,
and he was getting back there consistently, and up until he got injured against the Giants in Week 3. And if he can get back to that, what we were seeing in weeks 1 and 2. Leading into Week 3, where he was looking good, then I believe that his play can go up, and it's needed to go up. I mean, because if you can get the pass rush 2 weeks ago was by far, to me, the best pass rush I had seen. Even Steven Means was getting back there
right
to Zach Wilson. Now, he wasn't getting the sacks per se, but he was actually beating his man and get back there. And if we can get that pass rush to look like what it did that Sunday with everybody, now we got something moving forward. If just the both lines of scrimmage, man, if we can get these guys to overachieve, because a lot of these guys, let's face it, we are talent stricken, and we're going to have to get some guys to overachieve in order to help us obtain the goals that we want to obtain to be able to get where we want to go.
Yes, you're definitely right about that. Some of these guys are going to have to play above their station, and that's one reason why I've been pushing for more of the youth movement, so to speak, because guys like JTM who have been productive when they've given the chance, I want to see them get more of a chance. Same thing with guys like Michael Walker. When he's been out there, he's affected the game. Now I need to see him out there more so that he can continue to affect the game. So that's I agree there. If Marlon Davidson is back, that's a good thing. Let's see. Ryan S. Game says, "How do we feel with Patterson lining up at the tight end in some sets? I can recall seeing it 2 times in the Jets game. I don't know if I necessarily remember him being in he may have been busted out in like a wing type position, but that just speaks to his versatility, and that's and that's something that I want to see them continue to do. Is
now I said though, I'm sorry to cut you out there, but you're right. It makes me think of the quote that he said. And Falcons Nation, y'all have seen the quote where it's like, "Don't call me a running back, don't call me a receiver. Just call me an athlete."
That's it.
The mindset for what needs to be done. That's what I keep harping on. That's why I feel like, again, every week, if we continue to capitalize on it, it'll become a thing. But I think if he's healthy, he knows his role. Look, if I got to get me a couple carries to help the team, I help the team. If I got to go out and run a couple slants, beat a man in one-on-one coverage, I'll do that. I think, that's what makes a lot of high school teams really good. They have a player that just knows that, like, man, I'll do whatever I need to do to help the team win. You can't have enough of those guys on your team.
No, you're dead right. And, at some point in time, Patterson has to know and has to realize that, his time in the league is coming to an end, you know. And so I'm not saying that he was picky early in his career, but he definitely knows now that he ain't got the time to be picky. You know, he probably is at a point where he just wants to play. Maybe he's made that connection with Ragone from his time in, you know, Chicago, and Ragone was like, "Hey, dude, you come here, we'll find something for you to do." You know, you know, you have guys like that when you're on your job, whatever. You know, you go to another job, and you know, some people follow a boss, some people drag other folks with them. You know, that you just play better, or you know, perform better when you know you're around certain people, and that may be a deal with you know, Patterson and Ragone. I definitely have enjoyed being wrong about Patterson, you know, and his impact on this team. Let's see here.
Yeah.
Millie Mills says, I liked Tajay Sharp, boy plays with heart. I do like that he's starting to really carve out, like you were talking about before, carve out a role in this offense. Whether it's, you know, 10, 15 snaps a game, whatever. But you know, the more he's consistent with it, the more that role will expand.
He's earning Matt Ryan's trust. Right. I mean, dude had a quiet 53 yards in it. I don't even think nobody realized it, but he had a quiet 53 yards in the Jets game. You know, he's even looking better than Olamide Zaccheaus. I would have to start arguing at this point that he's taking over the third wide receiver role with the way that Matt Ryan is trusting in him. He's hardly not dropping any balls. And that's he's catching.
And you know what? He's the only receiver we got that has a hint outside of Kyle Pitts, who's the obvious. That's Captain Obvious. But he's the only receiver that we got that has a hint of physicality. Mm-hmm. And I think if we look at what this offense really needs, from a run blocking standpoint, he could, for all intents and purposes, be that other receiver out there. Right. You know, just getting those. Because again, like you need a Tajay Sharp that helps hold that guy just a little extra second for the running back to be able to spring a block. Yeah. I'm just not sure that, you know, because I'll be honest with you, what is it right now that Zaccheaus does that Christian Blake can't do? Right. To be honest with you, like you got the carbon copy of the same guy.
And not just that, but like that 39-yard reception by Pitts, like, is going to start, you know, putting fear in, you know, defenses' hearts, you know, as far as like your over the top plays. You know, you got a guy that, you know, before you know it, he's downfield, like, and a guy like from a position that you're not used to that happening to you on. So, like, you know, the over the top speed of, you know, that Zaccheaus brought, you know, that was one of the few things that he brought to the table. And if he can't like secure the simple catches, you know, that kind of stuff you may not be able to rely on him for the deep shots. But I am enjoying the way Sharp's playing. There was, you know, a couple times going back through that Jets game, charting it. I was like, okay, all right, I see you, Sharp. You know, I see you making those tough conversions. You know, back in the day, not back in the day, you know, past few years, it's been, you know, Gage being that chain mover. And now it's looking like it might have shifted to Sharp being that chain mover. All right, let's keep on rocking here. Let's see. Somebody says they feel like we need a physical receiver like Julio. I think so. I mean, you need that bigger body guy. If I could say that there's one thing that we're missing, it's definitely that right now. It wouldn't surprise me one bit next year if with our extra second we don't go and get another big body guy. Let's see. Atlanta GA Faithful says, what's up, Pound for Pound family? Glad to catch y'all live. Did a video on Matt Ryan. Y'all might want to check out. All right, yeah. If I get a chance, we'll give that a watch. Some gentleman is taking my name. He says, and JR says, Russell Gage return would help the offense. I think so. I mean, it ain't going to hurt the offense at this point. You know, I'll tell you that right there. Let's see. GA Faithful says, will our offense look better or worse with Kyle back? Interesting to see. I mean, it's going to look, I don't know if better is the right word or even worse, but he definitely represents a different threat out there. And you need all the threats that you can get. Like, this offense is definitely better with Calvin Ridley on the field.
Yeah, and I'll be honest with you. Whatever the personal issue is, I I think bold take. I think Calvin Ridley will come out with even more intensity though, because he has shown the ability to be a really good NFL receiver. And I think that now, if we're still unable to get Calvin Ridley going, it might just be it may be scheme. It could truly be this scheme does not allow him to thrive to the best of his abilities. But I will say this: Calvin Ridley. I just think that you haven't seen the last of Calvin Ridley yet. I think he's due for a big game, and we didn't think we'd be at this point, but for him, it's confidence too, though, because he needs a couple 100-yard games. And again, like I said, I go back to this thing. This team, everybody has to play their role for us to be effective, right? And I think we're just learning, man. Every week, we're understanding what everybody's role is. Like to your point, Toby brought it up earlier. Calvin Ridley, you don't like going across the middle. You want the big bucks. You want to be considered a receiver one, not a glorified, really, really good receiver two. Then you got to start going over the middle. You got to start getting some.
Right. If you want to ascend past the T.Y. Hilton area,
right?
Like T.Y. Hilton's good. Like but you got, if you wanted to ascend into the Stephon Diggs realm, you got to start doing those, getting up in there and mixing it up.
You got to. Right.
Because don't nobody think about T.Y. Hilton as being a top wide receiver.
That's
so that's just kind of where I'm at right now. He's on a precipice. He can either ascend into the talks of as far as like Stephon Diggs, or he can stay where he's at, which is the like I said, the T.Y. Hilton realm. Somebody asked a good question. Assassin BW25 says, since the trade deadline is coming, what moves do you think we should make? So we're in an interesting position. Had we lost to the Jets, I'd have been like, sell everything. Like I'd have taken a bag of donuts, but I think right now, if there's one thing that I don't know who, I don't know where you would get it, but the two positions that I would look for is an edge rusher, and potentially maybe another running back like a Marlon Mack or something like that. But anything outside of those two things, I mean, if you go get a wide receiver, they're going to have to learn this offense, and that may take too long to get comfortable to be effective, So I'm thinking about the positions that could be effective right away. Like if you go out and get a Marlon Mack, maybe you start using Cordell more in the pass game than the run game. Like, that balance shift that way kind of thing. That's my thoughts there. What are some of y'all's thoughts?
I think for me it's edge rusher. I think, my thing is if there's an area where, okay, let's take my example about the offense. On the offense, everybody has to play their role. If everybody fits their little role and kind of fits in this box, we got a chance to win. And again, if they don't play their role and we get behind, we're not equipped to go beat somebody. That's just kind of my offensive. Defensively, we're so weak at the pass rush position that everybody knows their role, get to the quarterback, and we still don't do it. So that's a weakness, okay? So my thing is, for the life of me, Terry F., Arthur Smith, do everything you can to help get us a consistent pass rush. Because I think what we're saying now, if Dante Fowler's out this week, oh man, we're screwed. A month and a half ago, we were like, we don't expect much out of Dante Fowler anyway. And now we're like, oh man, that's our best chance at a pass rush. So I will say this, got a lot of faith in Okundeji. Okundeji is starting to come on. But again, I don't want to put too much rookie, like Okundeji's got to show up for us to win. You don't want to put that type of pressure on a rookie, first of all. You don't want a rookie, unless he's Azeez Ojulari, where he was a glorified guy, like a dog coming out of college, right? You don't really want to put that type of pressure on. It's got to be a collective. So, again, take a deep breath, because I hadn't mentioned his name up to this point. But, man, it'd be really great to see one of my milk carton guys, Stephen Means, able to
start to get home.
At least please, like with the ball in his hand.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah.
Toby?
Here's what I've noticed in these first 5 weeks. Arthur Smith and his staff definitely feel good about the plan that they've implemented for every individual on this roster right now. They feel like they have plug and play guys because they feel very strongly about schemes that they put in place. You can kind of see where everyone's role is fitting. This is why they didn't ask OZ to do more than what they already knew he was capable of, taking over for Russell Gage and Calvin really not be there. And this is why they didn't ask Tajay Sharp to have to do more. Those guys were still able to fit into their role, and you was able to get more out of your tight end group to the tune of 189 yards and 2 touchdowns out of all 3 of those guys, Lee Smith included, who had 30 yards in that game. Right. Nobody paid attention to that because it's Lee Smith. Right. But they feel good about what they've implemented. And if Stephen Means can look the way that he did against the Jets that Sunday, when I actually saw him getting to the quarterback, we might have something out of one of the milk carton guys. Now, I don't know about Tyler Davis. But
he's still taking up space on that line, ain't he?
Right. Who I would really like to see shine right now is Mike Cornell.
Yeah.
That's the guy I want, because when we had a good defense, guys, guess what? We had Dontarie Pope clogging up that middle. 2017, that was the best top 10 defense we had. Right. And if we can get a semblance of that out of Mike Cornell, we might have a something.
I would love to see a front four of Pennell in the middle, bracketed by Grady and Davidson, with Dante Fowler or Ogundeji as your edge guy, your quote unquote edge guy. Giving you a pseudo 3-4-4-3, front, and that's something that I would really like to see, and maybe that's something we see, coming out of the bye, is that for stretches there, the defense played well against the Jets, and again, this is a Jets team that had just come off of beating the Titans, who just last night, or not just last night, but on I guess it was Monday night, beat the Bills, one of the favorites in the AFC. So, you can't just necessarily discount the Jets, right? And as long as our O-line doesn't take a major step backwards with McGarry going out, as of right now, even though I can't see how, but Jake Matthews is yet to give up a sack this year. I guess it's all coming from the middle, like the middle part, up the gut type deal. So, hopefully that stuff continues to be shored up. I was glad to see them not immediately want to move Mayfield to the right tackle. Yes. I was really worried that they were going to do that because he had, gotten playing time there or whatever. Leave him at left guard and let him keep working there. You can't just, you can't move him, and I'm glad that they didn't. I was very concerned, especially with the announcement of Andrews, Josh Andrews, being activated to the roster. I was like, surely they're going to do something screwy like that. Well, thankfully enough, for one of the few times whether it continues to work out or not, at least me and the coaches are on the same page,
right,
as far as that goes.
And Andrews has lost that job. So we won't have to worry about seeing him unless something, Lord forbid, happens to Jalen Mayfield. Yeah. So we don't have to worry about that. I'm glad they kept Mayfield there. That made the most coaching sense.
It did. It really did. Like you'd already put him through the ringer going against Sue and going against Fletcher Cox and going against Deron Payne. Like you already fed him through that wood chipper. Like, don't pull it now, kind of deal. Let's see here. Curtis Roberts says, question of the week, coming out of the bye, what are y'all's realistic expectations for the rest of the season? What is the ceiling for this team? Honestly, as of right now, as it stands, for me, the ceiling of this team is a winning record. I know that sounds like, but there's still a lot of question marks for me. A lot more than I would want right now. And there's still a lot of, if this happens, we'll continue to play good. Like, you know what I'm saying? There's too much what ifs right now. So right now I'm going to put the ceiling at, we can't say 8-8 anymore. So, what would be a winning record in a 17 game season? What, 9-8?
9-8.
9-8.
That's
Yeah.
so you have to. It's either 9-8 or 7 and
10-7.
yeah, 10-7.
Yeah.
So give me, like, right now, I think it's at least a winning season. What about y'all? What do you think?
Yeah. I'll say this much. I want it for Terry Fontenot and Arthur Smith. I think if this team could somehow squeak into the playoffs, would be relieving to Terry Fontenot and Arthur Smith for all the work they put in, trying to squeeze lemonade out of this roster based on what they were handed. So I wanted more for them than myself. Myself, I don't have any expectations anymore.
Right.
But I have expectations of hoping for their success because they were, let's face it, they were given a lot of lemons. Okay. And they're definitely trying to squeeze as much lemonade out as they can to fill up that pitcher.
Mm-hmm.
And if they can sneak somehow at the 7th seed, they don't have to be the 6th seed. If they can sneak in at the 7th seed in the playoffs. I mean, you're looking at a New Orleans team right now that does not trust Jameis Winston. They only averaging 57 plays per game right now.
Mm-hmm.
That tells you how much they trust James Winston. And you got over here in Carolina right now, Sam Darnold's back. Okay, yeah. The interception machine is back.
Right.
And that wide receiving core, they've dropped 17 passes, which leads the NFL right now. So Robbie Anderson and DJ Moore aren't catching cold too much over there in Carolina. So I'm hoping for us, for them, they can get up over Carolina and New Orleans and at least feel good about what they have going on going into 2022. Yeah. That's me. Big Mike, what you got? I'm sorry. I didn't mean to be long-winded.
No, you're good.
No. One, because I completely agree. I think those are all valid points, good points. And, you know, the thing about the Falcons for me is this. The ceiling is, I would say, French playoff team. I mean, I'll go ceiling French playoff team because we're not built to even compete truly with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers right now. But what we are built to do, we are built to compete. We're built to be able to make the game competitive every week. We do have a scheme offensively that allows us to make the game competitive on a weekly basis. And that was what I did not think I would see the very first week. When I watched that game against the Eagles, I thought that we could potentially go 2-15. That's the type of team that we want. But no, seriously, because I thought that we saw nothing in the playoffs.
Oh, did we lose Mike? All right, go on. Oh, well, we may have lost Mike there for just a second. All right, well, we're experiencing some real fun, interesting technical difficulties.
It's been one of those nights tonight.
It has been one of those. But I think we're going to go ahead and wrap this up. Some of y'all just saw my little girl come in. So I think we're going to go ahead and wrap this up. We have bumped up over an hour. So, you know, if you include what we had before everything went haywire. So, anyway, we appreciate y'all being with us today. Somebody, Millie Mills says, Toby, if we do sneak in, I think these boys will play a lot harder, which to carry over into the next season. Yeah, I think so. Like it's going to be real interesting to see how the rest of the season goes. But we'll be back on Friday to preview the Miami game. So y'all just keep it locked in right here. Like I said, we'll be back on Friday. But as always, y'all can follow me on Twitter. I am at Grimm1128, GRIM1128. Toby?
Toby D 1991, and since Mike Dub is not able to speak right now, I speak on his behalf. His is Mike_Dub, MIKE_DUB. You can follow him as well. And hey, we always love to talk Falcons, so hit us up on Twitter.
That's right. And as always, Falcons fans, We just trying to win.
Yes, me. Yeah.
Well, this was an interesting